One of my favorite genres of stories is stories of spirit and demon possession, and especially those where I, as the audience, have to take the demon side. I might be able to explain. Hello, this is Sheila Sophia, the podcast. My name is Memsahib Amaunet. So now, Nigerian Twitter. I am sorry to the Nigerians, though what I'm really sorry about is that I'm not sorry. The rest of us African women come to your Twitter streets specifically to take notes. You are our cautionary tales, and you provide those tales with such reliable consistency. So we are grateful to you. You know what? Let me be more diplomatic and stop calling you cautionary tales. We are grateful to you in the way one is grateful to a lighthouse. This particular conversation on Twitter tells the story of this woman. So she gets married and in the marriage encounters a violent husband. Her husband hits her the first time. She absorbs it and takes no action, and the word used on that thread was absorb. The second time, she absorbs it. The third time, she hits him back with the full force of someone who has been quietly doing inventory for 2 rounds. Of course, this requires a family meeting because the social logic on that side of the continent is that a woman who defends herself has broken something in the protocol that requires community repair. At the meeting, he says she's disobedient and a bad wife. She should know authority lies with her husband, and even God says so. So she should accept his correction with humility. The assembled adults, the adultier adults, the keepers of order, determine that she must have been possessed when fighting him back. As a Kenyan, I understood this as a graceful out. This was the part of the litigation that offered her temporary insanity as an alibi. While here, I am saying that your mother knew exactly what she was doing when she labeled you, her daughter, possessed, took her for deliverance services and exorcisms to make her a good daughter, and on and on. This charade was self-protection. Now this part I'm sure I can explain. So hang on, we'll get there. I think I'm getting ahead of myself. So of course the Twitter argument fractured into various constituent parts, each revealing exactly what kind of person was behind it. There were the true believers and disciples of the patriarchy, mostly men with the few predictable women who wear their internalized misogyny like a badge that says, I'm not like other girls. I will defend this system that doesn't serve me and call it being principled. I find these women quite courageous, actually. To perform your own dehumanization and limitation in public and call it wisdom requires a specific kind of nerve. Then there were the fairness crowd. The ones who said, well, she could have just left him. Why hit him back? And yes, she could have just left. But in my opinion, these types are the most dangerous people in any social conversation about women and harm, because they perform sounding reasonable. They have dressed their taking sides with oppression in the language of options and alternatives without consequences for abusers. And they walk around giving the impression that they are the adults in the room, the ones who are not caught up in the heat of either side, the rational ones. But what they are actually doing is ensuring that every conversation about harm ends somewhere. But that somewhere is everywhere other than accountability and justice. She had options, is what you say when you need the conversation to move away from, he hit her 3 times. It is intellectual cowardice wearing reading glasses and a tone of measured concern. Foolish individuals, and unfortunately, they happen to be majority of society. Then there were those who agreed she had the right to fight back, just perhaps differently. In different shoes, She could have found a stiletto, not sport shoes, at a different angle with a different strategy. I also find these people quite useless, thank you. You have just been hit a 3rd time in your own marriage, and what you don't need is a committee with suggestions about the method of your resistance. The one you took was the right one. A man hitting you is most certainly murderous. There is no such thing as softer measures. It takes a lot to hit another human being when you really think about it, especially an adult human being. Actually, no, it's worse for a child. So yes, they should be treated as murderers. Besides, the statistics on femicide aren't arguing with me. Hitters are killers. And then there was me, firmly situated, staunchly on the side of the demon. In possession narratives, across centuries, cultures, and theological frameworks, the demon is always a villain. The demon invaded, the demon corrupted. The demon must be cast out so that peace may be restored. And I find it suspicious because only one question seems to ever be asked, and it is who in a supposed seat of power had their order disrupted, and that is then considered the only story worth telling. When you follow possession narratives past the exorcism scene and the moment where the priest or the imam or the traditional healer wins and the family weeps with relief, past the credits, what you find is that the thing the demon was resisting is almost never interrogated. What was happening in that body before the demon arrived? What agreement had that body made with its own suffering, if at all? What name had everyone around it given to the suffering so that it sounded like virtue? We don't ask these questions. We light the incense, we burn the Idan fruit, we say the prayer, we cast out the demon, we call the body restored. Restored to what exactly is a question many are too polite or too self-preserving to ask, especially in mixed company. In this house, though, in this podcast house, I am not in mixed company, so let me ask. And we'll do this properly. Let's actually do it properly. So you're a demon. It is a Monday evening, or whenever it is that demons leave their, demons have their weekly debrief, their catch up, their little kiki session where everyone shares what they got up to over the weekend. Your colleagues are telling stories. One was at a club, dancing with complete abandon, no shoes, full body commitment, the kind of dancing that makes you forget you have a skeleton. Another did ayahuasca and received the precise geometric key to the structure of the universe, which it declined to write down because, it knows its rights. It was a demon and not a PhD student. Others had raucous, delicious, deeply inappropriate evenings involving things I am not going to detail here because I would rather you imagine them for yourselves. So you tailor them to your own brand of sexy. Some were at all-night church services, specifically for the drum section, because those corrugated iron sheet churches of a certain caliber have percussion. They have percussion that does things to the nervous system that no licensed therapist can replicate. Some were doing dervish spins in mountains. Some were deep in the ocean with the bioluminescent things. Some were eating the best biryani of their lives at 2 in the morning with people who love them without condition. And then there's you as a demon. You went to go get beaten by a Niger husband that you could beat back. And I'm not even assuming that you were there for the 2 previous times. Though, if you were, that is some human level tolerance for nonsense. And I don't know if I should applaud the demon or not. But on this 3rd time, the demon fought back, which is the minimum any demon worth its title should have done to begin with. And now it's being asked to explain itself at a family meeting. As if the explanation is not obvious. Any self-respecting demon shouldn't have to sit in a plastic chair in someone's sitting room and justify why it used the waist as a pivot for maximum punch force. And ladies, I am saying pivot from the waist. That is where the real power comes from. The shoulders swing, but the waist drives it. Any demon with basic self-respect teaches its host this at the first sign of violence. Personally, I am proud of that demon. Your fellow demons are there saying they went to Gucci and Prada. They went on natural trails and meditated. They smoked nice za and tobacco. They wore the finest silks and golds. Or they danced naked in the rain. They ate pasta, lobster, and wagyu. They had a good time. And you only have violent Niger husband tales. I beg. I also understand, or I also understood the demonization on another level. Her society, which is an African society, and especially the older women of that society, needed a graceful out for themselves. Because far too often, a violent husband is the son of a violent husband. So these men and women attending to her matter needed something to, as we say in Kiswahili, offer them sitara. They needed a covering for their shame in having created and endured such deplorable conditions in their own homes for so long. So the younger woman has to be labeled possessed, because if you don't, then society has to see the justice in what she did. And that opens up the discussion to interrogating how similar injustices are not met with appropriate justice within that community. Possession, or something similarly unusual and antisocial, has to be the story. And please, African daughters, like I said earlier, this is where I talk to you as you. And I talk to you direct. A lot of the stories told about how incapable, lazy, selfish, foolish, crazy, frivolous, flighty, unreliable, ill-mannered, impatient, or possessed you are by the older women of the family are because that is one of the sharpest knives in the African woman's toolkit of deflecting from the facts of a story. Yani kutupa kesi. When an African woman of a certain generation is unable to take accountability for her role in how the society around her looks, she first asks why you are all disrespecting women by giving them stress with your questions. Can't you see? Women go through a lot, so all their decisions surely are valid. It becomes harder to do this with daughters because they too are women and they're going through the same lot. And now these daughters are requiring better. They're saying, we're going through the lot and we're not treating people the way you're treating us. So there needs to be some kind of accountability on your end. And so it becomes that you are disrespecting your mother. You're disrespecting an elder. When that doesn't hold water, because it is clear that this elder should have done a better job of parenting and mothering, then it becomes that you're possessed. Something demonic and evil must have taken over you. How come you are the one girl who is unable to cope with the conditions of so many generations of women before her? Can you not see that it is just you? Why do you think you are special and will not suffer? Or why do you think you're above suffering? Why should you fight for yourself? Why do you let the spirits of pride and the demons of thinking you are better than and can therefore correct your mother take hold of you? Her labeling you possessed for leaving your husband is also her saying she would spiral into spiritual despondency if she had to address her own marriage and the options she has created for herself by choosing to stay. Facing her decisions is too vulnerable and true an image, so she tries to shatter every mirror around her. As her daughter, you are the first and most clear. She would have to question her belief in a God who is opposed to divorce in the face of suffering, for example, and question her submission to the spiritual authority of a pastor who has asked her for offerings over the years in the name of fixing this marriage. Question the prayer groups and the years invested in making it work, the friendships and the bonds formed, the social safety nets that she has built for herself just to carry this one man. She would have to answer who it really was for and what the answer to that says about her own belief in herself, her understanding of her own value, her self-esteem, and how she has managed herself as an adult with adult agency. She would have to come face to face with the fact that she told your brothers that they were going to grow up and save her, because God forbid a grown woman who was grown enough to have children actually takes the responsibility of being a mother for herself and her children and actually parents her children like she should. You can handle it as a young woman, largely because you do not have as much evidence of guilt as she does. You've not built a life around enduring this man. She cannot, which is why you need to be reminded that you are growing up too fast or thinking too highly of yourself. She remains a child psychologically, and in her self-image, she is crippled or without options, like one. And she remains a person who views herself as one who cannot survive without being dependent on another. And so when you are making adult decisions, you point it out by virtue of just making the decision. Accept that to her, you are possessed, because truly the spirit of love, courage, and a sound mind that worketh in you is not the spirit of confusion, fear, and discord that lives in her. The Shaitani was right. See you the next time I feel like saying something.